Hello and welcome back to Vox Terra, the show whose purpose it is to get us to focus on the long-term survival of our species, our politics that is. So to that end, let me start with this headline about Elon Musk and his acquisition of Twitter. Is Twitter Musk's Waterloo? And is this the tale of the visionary that almost was? 2022 by Vox Terra. Wait a minute, that's you, Vox Terra. It is. Where was I last night? So by Waterloo, we're referring to Napoleon's invasion of Russia, the idea that he overextended, overreached. So it's used as a metaphor in many circumstances, and that's how I'm using it today. So this show is not going to be a one-sided pile-on of Elon Musk. In fact, before I even begin, if you care to do so, please comment your thoughts on Musk and what you think where I'm going to go with this. So initially, I really thought Elon Musk had a lot of promise, and I'll tell you why. Him and I are probably similar age brackets. And I strongly believe we must have had some similar early childhood influences. Look, during my early childhood, I used to love to peruse the libraries and find books on space settlement, and I was also interested in stewarding or protecting our environment. Well, during my day, you could still sometimes come across books from the 50s in the libraries, and then of course the 70s and 80s, and I noticed a troubling pattern. I'd see books on space settlement dating to the 50s, and they were kind of the same concepts as going to the 70s and the 80s. And I saw, wait, nothing's really happening here. Now, add to that I first read about climate change, then called the man-made greenhouse effect in the early 1980s when I was reading Carl Sagan on space settlement. I was reading his work on terraforming Mars, and there he pointed out, you know what, we could create a greenhouse effect on Mars the way we are creating a unintentional greenhouse effect or strengthening the greenhouse effect that's already here on Earth by the excessive burning of fossil fuels and heating our planet or making our planet Venus-like. Well, I was a young kid then. I thought, wait a minute, we're heating our planet? And how come no one's talking about this? Well, decades and decades go by, no one's still barely any action, barely any transition from fossil fuels. And the same, barely any effort to settle space. The same thing, just no vision. So now let's jump ahead to a fateful day. I was leaving a pancake house. And please do not judge me for going to a pancake house. And in that parking lot, I saw this, what looked to me like a sleek, beautiful vehicle, looking like it was designed from the 1930s futurism or that kind of aesthetic. It had this really cool looking T on it. Well, I looked into it and I found out that was a Tesla, and it was actually an electric vehicle. Then I found out more. This billionaire founder of Tesla made his fortune in the internet and is a founder of PayPal, a co-founder of PayPal. Well, here too, him and I had now not similarity any longer, but there was a path not taken on my part. Again, to that early childhood time period in the 80s, I had an early interest in computers and thought that was the way to go. Well, I'm imagining the kind of background he came from and the kind of background I came from are pretty different. And like a lot of people who didn't follow through on their dreams or their vision, there's reasons or things that happen in your life that dissuaded you from doing that. So let's get back to where there's commonality again. Then I found out this Elon Musk character is also interested in solar power and returning humanity to space or settling Mars. I thought, wow, this is the first really super wealthy person I've come across that it looks like they have a similar vision and almost really could have been me had I stayed that path with computers going way back to my early childhood and not been dissuaded. These are similar things that I believe I would have done had I had the fortune. Electrification and a transition to renewables, and then try to get people interested in space settlement. Now, initially, I defended Elon Musk from critics on the left, and if you watch enough of my shows, you know I've got a lot of sympathy and agreement with what I call the true left, meaning those people who are standing up to the power and influence of these vested, powerful industries in our society. People would say, well, his vehicles are so expensive, he's got this fortune, he should just give his money away. Well, I defended that on two grounds initially. Look, in a capitalist economy, which not enough people are really challenging, that's how it works. Wealthier people tend to have the more disposable money, and they're the early adapters or adopters of newer tech. So the vision here is, wealthier people are going to purchase these beautiful high-power Teslas, and then the cost will come down for the rest of us. And then defending someone trying to do a sustainable business or a greener business rather than just donating money, well, again, since we live in this capitalist economy, we need to create pathways for people to be able to earn a living in a less destructive fashion. But as the years went on, a lot of troubling signs started coming out about Elon Musk for me. where him and I obviously really speciated in our influences. But before I get to that, I still had some false hope that his acquisition of Twitter was again like something I would have done. You know, I've said in so many of my videos that it's the power and influence of our media, why we don't have a greener economy, why we're getting to these wars all the time. So I was hoping that at the least, this Twitter purchase was going to be his endeavor to now get that vision out there for the long-term survival of our species. Well, by this point, though, I already knew that was a false hope. And let me tell you why. So one of Elon Musk's tweets that I found really troubling initially was one where he tweeted about the coup in Bolivia overthrowing Evo Morales and said, "We will coup whoever we want. Deal with it." Rah, rah, rah. Well, at that point, that's saying to me, he never read Noam Chomsky. Now, maybe you haven't either, but Noam Chomsky is the author, really just made it like crystal clear to me that our media has all these ties to these dominant industries, and that's why the message for a better society isn't really getting out there, because it steps on the toes of who's already established. And the specific book I'm thinking about is called Manufacturing Consent, if you're interested. Then I started hearing about allegations of anti-union tweets. Now, if you're just dismissing the benefits of unionism, then you never read a book called Labor's Untold Story. He tweeted out support for Ron DeSantis. Well, here, this means you have not been looking at, as I have, the environmentalist literature over your lifetime. Because if you were, you'd know that for a long time now, the Democrats have been way more responsive to us environmentalists. And then if you're reading, money and politic watchdog groups like Open Secrets, you'll know that the power and influence of that fossil fuel petrochemical industry reigns supreme in the Republican Party. So when Musk came for his Twitter purchase, all I'm hearing out of him is just this talk about free speech. Look, there's some good in that, of course, but the problem is, what are you talking about? Over my lifetime, I've seen that call often used to conceal or mask or hide or justify other hidden agendas like bullying, racialist thinking. For example, Facebook, underreported, was cited for being used as a platform to organize and incite violence against the Rohingya. I'll cite you a warning about how some people are afraid that Twitter is going to be used as a platform to spread hate in India. But really, I've had these kind of debates firsthand, going back to my punk rock youth. As the late 80s morphed into the early 90s, there started being a growing problem with racist or Nazi skinheads kind of infiltrating and disrupting that scene. I remember early on debating with this skinhead who's got this maybe a swastika t-shirt on, and he's telling me, "Oh, free speech." And I'm like, "Yeah, but what are you saying?" So you see, he's covering for promoting this under the banner of free speech. It really happens that way. So I cannot be the only person who maybe had some hopes and saw Elon Musk the way I was initially seeing him, and the way I would still like to, but can right now. And just on a simple base level note for Tesla, I can tell you, I bet a lot of Tesla drivers right now are upset. It's not helping them. It's not helping that stock. It's not helping what I thought was Elon Musk's vision. So basically, we could say that Elon Musk probably had some similar interests I had in my early childhood. He probably saw the same way that I did, that nothing's happening in terms of addressing climate change or trying to settle space or the long-term survival of our species, something visionary. But then, while maybe he was exposed to Carl Sagan, Wernher von Braun, and other scientists, he obviously was not exposed to political thinkers like Noam Chomsky, or any literature coming from the actual environmental movement, or any literature coming from the labor movement. Therefore, he has a weaker analysis. And that really is the whole problem with our society in a capitalist economy. Money talks, that's controlling the whole thing. Well, hey, I hope you found this show helpful, interesting, maybe a more balanced criticism than you're used to, a bit entertaining. I try to get some of those funny voices in. Please make sure you're subscribed, you're liking, you're commenting, you're supporting at Patreon. It'd be terrific to get a bit more support going here, people. And as always, and until next time, peace be with you.